All right, today we're going to do a little digital archaeology. We're digging into some of Bitcoin's earliest tech. Now, these things were totally cutting edge back in the day, but now they're basically digital fossils. And by figuring out why they failed, we get a much better picture of the awesome security we rely on today.
So, let me ask you something. Ever wonder if your Bitcoin address could, spell out your name or maybe your company's name? It's a cool thought, right? Well, the answer is kinda yes and kinda no. And that whole idea brings us right to our very first digital artifact.
And here it is, artifact number 1, the Vanity address. Back in the early days of Bitcoin, these were the cool thing. It was like getting a custom license plate for the blockchain. So let's break it down. What exactly were they? Why was everyone so into them? And maybe most importantly, where did they all go?
Okay, so what in the world is a vanity address? Well, think of it like this. It's a totally real, 100% functional Bitcoin address, but it starts with a custom word or phrase that you can actually read. The magic trick here is how you find one. It's all done through what's called a brute force search. Basically, it's like a computer playing a digital lottery millions of times a second, hoping to hit your lucky numbers.
And check this out, this is a perfect example. See how this address starts with one love? That's not a Photoshop trick. That is a real, working Bitcoin address. Someone, somewhere went to the trouble of generating it just to have that cool prefix. You could literally send Bitcoin to that address right now. So cool. But how on earth did they do it?
Well, the process itself is, simple on paper, but in reality, it's just massive. Your computer basically does this on a loop. 1. Pick a random private key. 2. Create the public address from it. 3. Check if that address starts with, say, one love. Nope. Okay, throw it out. Start over. And it does this over and over and over again. We're talking millions, sometimes billions of times.
And just to put that into perspective for you, your average desktop PC can crank through about 100,000 of these tries every single second. Now that sounds insanely fast, right? But believe me, when you start wanting a longer custom address, 100,000 a second is like trying to empty the ocean with a teaspoon.
Okay, now this is where it gets crazy. This really shows you the brutal math of it all. Look at this. To find an address that starts with one kids, that's just 4 characters, takes about a minute, no big deal. But just add 2 more letters to make it one kid's chair, and suddenly you're waiting for 2 days. 2. And if you want the whole thing, one kid's charity, well, you'd better get comfortable. Because on that same computer, it would take you, on average, 2.5 million years. It's just mind-boggling.
So, aside from it being nearly impossible to get a long one, vanity addresses basically died out for 2 huge reasons. First up, technology just left them behind. They just don't work with modern wallets. You know how we all use a single seed phrase to back everything up now? Well, you can't just jam a random one-off private key into that system. It breaks the whole model. And second, and this is a big one, they are terrible for your privacy. I mean, a real nightmare. Using the same public address over and over again is like putting a giant neon sign on all of your transactions for the whole world to see.
All right, let's shift gears to our second artifact. And I gotta say, the vibe here gets a lot more serious. We're talking about paper wallets. And this isn't just about some old clunky tech. No, this is a straight-up cautionary tale. It's about security, hidden traps, and real-world risk.
So, a paper wallet is pretty much what it sounds like. It's your Bitcoin private key, the keys to the kingdom, printed out on a physical piece of paper. The whole idea was to create cold storage. Take your keys totally offline where hackers can't get them. And look, on the surface, that sounds like a great idea, right? Simple, secure. But the reality? It's so much more dangerous than it looks.
And I really want this message to sink in. This isn't just my opinion. This is a direct, loud and clear warning from security experts across the board. It's not a gentle suggestion, it's an urgent plea. Do not use paper wallets. The consensus is crystal clear. They're obsolete, they're incredibly risky, and they are just not worth it, period.
So what makes them so bad? Well, for starters, the software you use to even create the wallet can be rigged. It could be secretly sending a copy of your private key straight to a thief. And this isn't theoretical. There are so many stories of people who lost everything. I mean, their entire life savings this way. The whole process from creation to actually using it is just littered with these hidden traps. It's a total minefield, even if you think you know what you're doing.
So, okay, we've looked at these 2 digital fossils. What's the big lesson here? What's the takeaway?
Really, the story of why vanity addresses and paper wallets failed is the exact same story of why modern Bitcoin wallets are so good. It's all about learning from mistakes and choosing strong, system-wide security instead of flimsy, single-point solutions.
This really brings it all home. Back then, security was like a house of cards. It was all about you managing these individual fragile keys. You lose that one vanity key or that one piece of paper gets destroyed, game over. Everything's gone. But today our security is like a fortress. It's systemic. We have deterministic wallets where one single seed phrase can recover everything. And we have hardware wallets that keep our keys truly offline and safe. They actually solve the problem paper wallets were trying to fix, but they do it the right way.
And that kind of leaves us with one final big question to think about, right? All the security standards we just take for granted now, our seed phrases, our hardware wallets, they were all built on the ashes of these failed ideas. So it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What are we using today that we think is the absolute best practice, the gold standard, that future generations will look back on and say, wow, can you believe they used to do that? What will be the next digital fossil? Something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.